The facts of the matter are, on August 10th of 2020, we embarked on a Bitcoin strategy. And when we did that, the enterprise value of our software business was about $66 a share. And as I'm speaking with you right now, the stock is trading $329 a share. Our shareholders have made billions of dollars since we started this strategy. No one's lost. If you actually look at the performance of Bitcoin since we actually bought $250 million of it and embarked on a Bitcoin strategy, Bitcoin's up 101%. And that's the S&P's up 23%, the Nasdaq's up 15%, gold is down 12%, bonds are down 15%, and silver is down 28%. So in fact, Bitcoin smashed every single asset. The only thing that outperformed Bitcoin in that time period is MicroStrategy stock, up 166%. So we actually performed 1.6x Bitcoin. The best performing enterprise software company in that time period is Oracle. Oracle's up 39%. MicroStrategy's up 166%. IBM's up 2%. Salesforce is down 4%. SAP's down 40%. We're definitely not losing. So I would say, to summarize, conventional critics and conventional mainstream analysts, they don't get the crypto economy, they don't understand Bitcoin, and they hate volatility. And those are the people that would tell you, take all your money, put it in a bank account yielding 1% interest, and just don't lose it and don't bother us. But when we embraced the Bitcoin strategy, we did it because we knew that if we held our cash in a bank account, it was going to lose 20% of its purchasing power per year. And it has, as predicted. The money supply expanded by 40%. Single-family homes in the U.S. have increased in price 40%. So I've been the CEO for 33 years, I'm the chairman of the board, I'm the controlling shareholder, and I've been talking about Bitcoin for 2 years. And about 2 years ago, we promoted a gentleman, Fong Li, to be president of the company. And he was the president and the CFO. So we have 2,150 people. We sell software, we make software. We have thousands of customers. We do thousands of transactions a quarter. We hire hundreds of people a year. So if you think about it, you realize that, it's very logical for the CEO of the company to be the person that actually manages the day-to-day business, because all the transaction and all of the labor intensity is all about software. I don't need to be the CEO in order to oversee the Bitcoin side of the business, because I can do that as the chairman of the board and as the chair of the investments committee, where we provide oversight for Bitcoin acquisition, and maybe once a quarter we might do a deal, like borrow $200 million or issue equity or something, or we might buy Bitcoin, but it really is something that can be best supervised at the board level. So that if you're positive, you say, okay, well, this is normal succession and appropriate corporate governance. If you just want to write something trollish, you would pair the non-cash write-off with me taking the executive chairman role, but obviously it has nothing to do with that. It's always been the plan for me to be executive chairman and for Fong to be the CEO. The way to think about investing in Bitcoin is you should only invest what you're going to hold for 4 years or longer, and ideally it's generational wealth transfer, and then you should dollar cost average into it. If you have a short time horizon, like you want to make money in 4 weeks or 4 months, it's going to be much more stressful because it is a volatile asset. And the volatility impacts two types of people. It impacts people that are short-term investors, that they want to make a quick buck or they just never want to lose money. So I would say the people that really are fixated upon gap optics, right, they'll be a little bit troubled by it. And then people that have very short-term time horizons are troubled. But for the rest of the world, it's a pretty good idea. Yeah, I mean, if we're talking about what's caused the crypto crash, I think that it was triggered first by the interest rates, right, the tightening of the Fed, and that put pressure on all risk assets from the beginning of the year. So that melted down a lot of the cryptos and resulted in the unwinding of the Three Arrows, Voyager, and Celsius bets. And And I think a lot of people took a lot of inappropriate risk, right? So that's what takes the market down. And now the market, I think, has probably bottomed, and it looks like it's just looking much better. So what I see is Bitcoin emerging as a institutional investment grade asset being embraced by regulators, legislatures, and large-scale investors. And the entire market's been very educated by this crypto crash. Now it's obvious to people the difference between, the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? The good would be a stable coin backed by cash equivalents that are transparently published every week, like Circle, right? The bad might be a tether, which it works and they're competent, but it's opaque. And Bitcoin is dead money, and now they realize that, there is a counterparty risk to pursuing this. And this has educated the market, very, very effectively in a painful way, but in a rapid way. And I think it'll catalyze the maturity of the asset class and the institutionalization of Bitcoin to the benefit of the Bitcoin holders and the ecosystem. If you don't have either of those things, then you have to have the majority of your enterprise value be constituted of Bitcoin. Like with MicroStrategy, we have 129,699 Bitcoin. So our shareholders can multiply the price of Bitcoin times that, and if Bitcoin moves up $1,000, they know we added $130 million worth of value. So that's not that hard. But if you were a company and 5% of your enterprise value was Bitcoin, or 2%, or take Tesla, they would have taken a massive intangible write-down and gotten all the negative optics, but it would still be immaterial to the rest of their P&L or to the rest of their enterprise value. So it's like all the downside, not so much upside. Whereas in our case, our shareholders will look at that and they can do their own calculations. So I think that you will have to see some changes before you see corporate adoption there. Bitcoin is outperforming everything in 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10 years. So it's that simple. What you want to do is get rich slowly, not get rich quick. And that means that the time-tested technique for investment is you buy high-quality, scarce, desirable property and you hold it forever. And you just got to figure out what is scarce and desirable and high quality. So if you did the calculation, right, it's like if I taught 1,000 students every year for 250 years. I did another 4-hour thing with Lex Friedman and a 4-hour discussion in my library in my house in Miami. So the short answer is I think I'll go on the podcast circuit. I do like teaching, and I'm very open to looking at more academic things. But I think the way to do it in the 21st century is with scalable podcast mediums and streaming video, and not the 20th century way is going to a classroom with 100 students at a time. Think about 100 students at a time. Teach 2 semesters and get to 200 students a year, and teach for 40 years or 20 years and get to 4,000 students, and you get to 4,000 people on your show right in the first few minutes after you upload it. The point I'm trying to make is you want to give music to 1 billion people, give them free digital music. And if you want to give money to 1 billion people, give them digital money. And if you want to give education to 1 billion people, give them digital education. And I love the Steinway piano, and I love a gold watch, and I love MIT in the classroom. But you got to go forward. You can't go back if you want to make the world a better place. What I've said is Bitcoin is scarce, desirable property, and I intend to hold it forever, for the rest of my life. I'm not a speculator. And what I've also said is if you're in a collapsing currency environment, you should have negative working capital. You're better off to have debt than to have equity. And what's happened in the past 2 years is currencies have collapsed. You were better to have debt than equity. Everybody can decide how much Bitcoin they want to buy versus how much land versus how much art versus how much whatever else they want to own. If you calculated or if you estimated the economy based upon real output and then you adjusted it for the strength of the currency, if the currency loses 20% of its purchasing power and the economy is flat, then you contracted the economy by 20%. So the currency's lost 40% of its purchasing power in the past 2 years. If the economy grew 5%, you're down 35%. The dollar is the strongest medium of exchange in the world, and so it is strengthening against other currencies, but the currencies are the weakest store of value. The foreign currencies are weak store of value assets. So foreign currencies are collapsing, but I think that you've got a basket of strong currencies that be pegged to the dollar, and they're losing 15% of their value or more a year. And then you've got weak currencies that are losing 15% of their value against the dollar. I actually think that in a digital world, 8 billion people want to hold a dollar. They don't want to hold a local currency. If you need your money in less than 4 years, you probably want to keep it in the dollar. And if you need your money in more than 4 years, if you want to hold it between 4 and 40 years, you put it in property, and the best property in the world is Bitcoin, and the best currency in the world is the dollar. Bitcoin you can move, and the rest, unclear. So it's pretty obvious some things just don't work. The economy's not going to work well. The money supply is increasing. The Inflation Reduction Bill is, $600 or $800 billion worth of spending. Everybody's going to keep spending more money. Some currencies are going to collapse completely. The government's going to collapse with them. That'll happen in the developing world. That will result in capital controls. Governments will print more money. As they print more money, the value of the currency will fall against scarce, desirable assets. You can't print more energy, and so that's why you can't print more food. So certain things will have tangible value. The best idea in a world where it's very difficult to move cross borders and it's very difficult to manufacture things and it's very difficult to buy and sell things, the best idea is digital energy, you see. Because once you convert energy to a block of encrypted energy, and that's what Bitcoin is, you can hold it forever with no maintenance cost. And you can transport it anywhere in the world for no transaction fee.